Seances, mediums, Ouija boards. The living have long been enamored with communicating with the dead. There's even an app that will let you talk to them on your smartphone.
Hello.
But back in the late 1800s, the popularity of the planchette and the talking board exploded, bringing this ancient practice into the mainstream, becoming a popular pastime, and the dead haven't shut up since. Living in this quiet Austin neighborhood is quite possibly the world's largest collection of planchettes. Now I know what you're thinking. What is a planchette? Well, to get that answer, let's ask Brandon Hodge, curator of this museum quality collection.
A planchette is the item that makes up the bulk of my collection, and it's an automatic writing device that dates from the Victorian era. They were first invented in France, in Paris, in 1853. They're an early automatic writing device for spirit communication. All of these items were the pinnacle of parlor entertainment at one point. In the 1850s, it was table tipping. So that's, literally putting your hands on a table and waiting for it to move mysteriously. And you can communicate with that. You can ask it to move once for yes or twice for no, and it moves mysteriously in much the same way that we would experience with a Ouija board planchette. And that was really the 1850s. In the 1860s, the planchette comes into popularity and is the parlor game of the Christmas season. I mean, it is the must-have gift item for family and friend for those holidays. And you just see this incredible explosion. It's like the yo-yo or the hula hoop. It's a headline-making sort of invention. And we will see that repeat in phases. We'll see the Ouija come along in the 1890s and do that. Ouija will again have these surges of popularity in the 1920s and again in the 1940s, often following periods of conflict. The Great War, the Second World War. But they certainly have all served their time.
And this house is full, floor to ceiling, walls filled with amazing artifacts. Items so unique, you can't help but wonder how this all started.
Well, I got my start in this sort of realm of collecting as a performing magician in the mid and late 1990s. And I soon fell in with a subset of magic performance known as bizarre magic. And it has its roots in the United Kingdom with performers who sort of rejected the idea that magic was just for kids and started delving into darker performance themes and often indulged in the occult, the macabre for inspiration. And I started developing essentially a haunted antiques routine that had a very seance-like atmosphere. And one of the hallmarks of that was using authentic antiques to create your effects. And so I acquired my first Ouija boards and planchettes during that era as authentic props for this show, which I soon gave up on. But I had begun plumbing American spiritualist history to sort of inspire these routines. It's taken me a couple of decades to get the collection up to this size. I initially got started with a few key acquisitions, but I was more interested in the research and the cataloging than I really was in the acquisition. Of course, it was my ramen days during college, so it was a luxury I couldn't well afford. So I had a few key pieces early on, but really it's been in the last 10 years that I've really ramped up the collecting. These items really require a special sort of collector. You have to have a lot of patience for those who have negative effects against them. Is something that you have to deal with quite often, particularly if you're in any kind of public forum. The competition can often be fierce, and bring your wallet. It's certainly something that has risen in popularity in the last few years, and there's a lot of new collectors who are willing to pay.
It's time for a collector's class. Today's question: what is the difference between a talking board and a writing board?
Well, most modern audiences are familiar with the Ouija board planchette. This is a 19-teens version, Wheeler's wireless messenger, and this is its planchette. So this item is what most folks are familiar with. You place it on the board, you place your hands upon it, and it soon begins to move mysteriously. pointing out different letters in order to spell out messages. But that's different and distinct from the predecessor of this item and its namesake, and that's the automatic writing planchette. You can see this is a British example, and it's a little bit bigger, and it has two brass casters with little bone wheels, and its third wheel is essentially a pencil. And so this item was meant to be placed on a large sheet of butcher paper on a flat tabletop. And again, you would place your hands on the item, and rather than pointing out messages by pointing out individual letters, it would actually move mysteriously and script out in a cursive writing purported to be from the spirits, and in that way spelled out messages from beyond.
So you have this beautiful house
full
of these collectibles / historical artifacts.
Right.
So here's a question to you. If, let's hope this never happens, but if you had to come in here and grab 5 things to save, only 5, what would those 5 be?
Whew, let's see, man, that's tough. Starting, I guess, from least to most important, although that's a hard qualifier to make. I guess it's going to be 5 extraordinarily rare planchettes, irreplaceable artifacts. 4 of those, and then one other. The Enchanting Medium is this unique planchette out of the UK, which utilizes some galvanic theory, and it's just a beautiful work of art. It's kind of jeweled and has this great silver filigree work on it. 2 Kirby and Company planchettes would make that list. They're very rare. Number 3, India rubber planchette, which was one of America's earliest commercially available plastic products. It's an ebonite product, probably made by one of the Proto Goodyear subsidiary. And then the number 4 glass Kirby. It's a plate glass planchette, so you can use your writing, and there just can't be many of either of those that have survived. So that's 3 there. Gosh, 4th one would probably be, it would be hard to pick which one, but I'd grab the G.W. Cottrell Boston planchette, because that was likely America's first manufactured planchette. And then lastly, the Dr. Robert Hare spiritoscope, which is kind of the crown jewel of the collection, and is really an American cultural artifact far above and beyond some of the more commercially available stuff.
So Brandon lives in a house literally full of various tools to communicate with the dead. So I had to ask him, are you a believer?
I certainly believe they work, but I guess the real question is how you believe they work. Because from a believer standpoint, or a true believer standpoint, I should say, from a religious standpoint, they are conduits to the spirit world and enable the spirits to influence the communications they provide. But there's a scientific explanation as well, and that would be ideomotor response, and that it's essentially our own unconscious, our own subconscious mind is independently manipulating these items and influencing our muscular movement in a way that we don't perceive as originating from us. And it's something you can certainly experience with a Ouija board or table tipping or an automatic writing planchette, whether you're a true believer or not.
So you've never had anything unexplained happen in a house full of tools to contact the other side?
No, I often get asked if I live in Austin's most haunted home, but the fact is I sleep pretty soundly here, and not a lot of knocks and noises throughout the night.
Want to learn more about planchettes? Check out Brandon's incredible website, mysteriousplanchette.com. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe so you can stay on top of all of our cool Collector Guide videos. Also, check us out online at collectorguides.com. And always remember, surround yourself with what you love.